By the way, what's funny with culture, if you could trace 3 generations, not even 4, 3 generations going backwards, you may actually find that when we were coming down here, we are all connected. We are not. So at the end of the day, xenophobia for me, it comes as a result of Bantu misinformation.
So I need you to match these ones: spirituality, culture, and religion. Where does it fall in the African space?
The African space does not think like that. You are talking to me with a Hellenistic mindset.
There was a musician, Lucas Maluma, this one. He came out there and he said, why can't we do in an African way? Play the drum.
Jesus will run through the window.
Yeah.
Jesus only comes when he hears organs and strings. Then Jesus comes and says,
do you consider yourself a musician?
I'm scared of calling myself a musician. I rather call myself Sangoma. And Lord Ula is Sangoma. He's Sangoma Zongili. These are all medium spirits. They might not understand, but their business is actually to heal through song.
I have to agree with you. Our ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us on the Gospel Reality Podcast. Today we've got a dynamic, different, and I must say a wealth of knowledge. I've got a father, he's an entrepreneur as well. We're going through, he's an entrepreneur, a philosopher, but most importantly, he's a husband. Which is, and I say most importantly on purpose, because that's one thing that has never shaken in his bio. Tata Maponga, how are you doing, sir?
All is well.
Thank you very much for honoring us.
Thank you very much.
You are in demand.
I'm just fearing for inflation.
and for me, it's you're uncancelable.
Oh.
A lot of people try to cancel you, and you've got how many lives now?
The life of a cat. He died. But they say Maponga.
Yeah.
In Shona, Bonga is a cat.
Oh, really?
When there are many, then it's Maponga.
Oh,
so apparently my grandfather used to fight, and he fight like a cat. So they nicknamed him Maponga.
Oh, really?
So it's actually some cat stuff to do.
And one thing you don't disappoint, I always learn something when I'm listening to you. So I've already learned. So if I don't learn anything after this, which I doubt, yeah. And you are from Zimbabwe, Masvingo.
Masvingo, the Great Zimbabwe.
The Great Zimbabwe. I was in Masvingo in December. In Masvingo, we're in Churumanzu, then we went to Masvingo.
Did you get to the ruins?
Yes. No, the ruins. No.
Then you never went to Zimbabwe.
No, I went to Zimbabwe.
No.
We also saw what is the guy. Chitekete's grave?
Leonard Dembo.
Is Leonard Dembo.
No, you're missing the point. I'm saying, how can you get to Zimbabwe?
Yeah?
And you didn't put your feet inside the Zimbabwe. From where Zimbabwe gets its name from. It is named from those ruins.
Really?
So if you have not put your feet in the ruins...
I have not been there.
So Zimbabwe is made of 2 words. Zimba, it's house.
Yeah.
Okay, it's stone. So we build families first, then we build a nation. Zimbabwe, it's a big house of stone. Zimbabwe, it's a stone. So Zimbabwe, it's a country that establishes families on stone to build a nation.
Wow. And you still did not teach me that. But thank you for another lesson.
Welcome.
Yeah, but I was in Masvingo, but I was in town.
What does Masvingo mean?
Masvingo, it means, I've got no idea.
It means ruins.
The ruins?
It means again those very same stones in the sea. So Masvingo actually means, Masvingo is a wall.
It's a wall?
The wall of stone.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So Masvingo is a town that is next to Zimbabwe.
Zimbabwe?
Yes.
Wow.
Had you gone to the lake, then right in the lake there's an island.
What do you call that lake? Yes.
If you go to the lake, that island in the lake there, my grandfather's house was right next to it.
In Data?
In the lake there.
Yes, but before, what's that area called? Ndaza.
Zaka.
No, the name of the area there.
Mutirikwe.
Mutirikwe is the name of the lake.
Yeah, Mutirikwe. It's all around Zimbabwe. It's 2 kilometers away from the ruins.
Yes.
Yes. So in the lake there, next to the lake, the island there, my grandfather's house was there. We actually moved from there when the lake was being built.
Oh, wow.
So my history is actually within the greater ruins themselves, yeah.
Oh, wow. Is that where you go when you go home?
When I go home, my grandfather then bought a farm after World War II, another 40, 50 k's down to Bikita. Just across 2 rivers, you cross Mtokwe, you cross Tugwe River. There's some farms there.
And you can see I'm very interested in traveling. I went to Zimbabwe for the first time in December. I'm going again in August. So
You must call me when you come up.
no, definitely.
We'll show you no, not this commercial Zimbabwe.
Proper Zimbabwe.
I'll take you to the caves of the kings, and you have some
Really?
knowledge of the ancient history.
Yeah, but hey, you must deal with that borders. Hey, we struggle there.
Oh, bad news for you is that you went at the wrong time. Good news is that the Zimbabwean border right now is one of the best in the world when there's Pan-Africa. Brand new border.
Brand new.
Clean. It makes South Africa look like something else. But then let me not say much. Let me leave a bit for imagination. But we have a brand new border now. And the services are improving.
Yeah.
The problem is sometimes when you move new people, old people to a new building, the mindset is still a bit, but there's a beautiful space now. Clean
I see.
toilets, clean floors, brand new, whole brand new digital space that the government has just put out there.
That I need to see.
Lovely space.
Yeah, because I drove there and I flew back. So the airport was at least good.
Yeah. And the roads are also almost done. From
Yes.
this bridge to Harare. I think we only have about a few hundred k's left. But from Harare coming down to Masvingo, I think it's about 10 k's that is still standing. Then after Bubi there, another few kilometers standing. But actually,
But generally they were good.
Yes,
I must admit. And you must check it out because when you do your Cape to Cairo trip, you must make sure your borders, the African borders, I've heard they can be hostile, especially when you're driving.
yeah.
So are you ready and prepared for that?
That is part actually of the trip itself.
Yeah.
It is to make a press release and ahead of time be able to send letters to the immigration officers.
Oh.
Telling them exactly who we are, what we're going to be doing, the commercial part of the trip, the tourism part of the trip, the indigenous knowledge sharing, and also asking for grace. That as we go past, please, can they be kind to us?
Oh, yes.
And not only to us, and all those that will follow after us.
Yeah.
So it is also maybe to begin to experience. And whatever we would experience there, it will be recorded. So it's all up to you as a country to show us your bedside or put your best behavior.
100%. And I'm glad we're talking about borders because I believe in one Africa. I believe we should not have borders. How easy was this trip going to be if we were not subjected to borders?
To live in the best. Then you didn't have to worry about currencies.
Yes.
You didn't worry about passports.
Correct.
You didn't worry about visas. And it's amazing that America with 52 states, they were able to create a borderless America.
Exactly.
Europe with EU, you can move from Italy right up into Sweden, into Norway, and crisscross the whole continent of Europe with no border. Simply just, and I'm glad. I went to meet up with President Genko sometime early last year, President of Namibia.
Yeah.
And we shared these issues of the Khoisan, Botswana and Namibia border, who were being shot at by both governments at one time. So as a Pan-Africanist in my own space,
Correct.
I was glad to make an audience with the president. We shared views on how can you be a revolutionary and yet you are still shooting each other on the borders.
100%.
And, 2, 3, 4 weeks later, I heard there was a conference between the two presidents, Masisi and Genko. And within a month from there, the borders were lifted in Namibia and Botswana. Now you just need your ID to walk past. And 3 months later, 4 months at most, then Masisi sent a message to Mnangagwa that we also want to open a border between Botswana and Zimbabwe.
In Zimbabwe.
Kenya has done it good. Uganda has done it good. Tanzania has done it good. You don't need a passport in any of those countries. So there is a new understanding that is going past. And unfortunately, to say this without being too political, is that the South African, being the last boy on the block, the Afrikaner Dompars mindset, our country, and I don't believe it's the Africans who are doing this difficult thing. It is the white Afrikaner community, maybe that is scared that should they lift up the borders,
Yeah.
and should there be a flood of people into the country, what will happen to them? But people are not like goats that you can block. Those that want to go to Congo for mining can go to Congo.
100%.
Those that want to go fishing in Malawi, who go to fishing in Malawi. And if you look at the 2 million Zimbabweans that are here, every month they are sending money home. They are sending.
Double manage.
When you
Yes.
and I think the fear of when we open the borders, South African Zimbabweans will come and live here. Masutu, go and stand at Maseru border during Christmas
100%.
and Easter, and see how many of them are going back home. Go to Swaziland. So it's almost like we need to understand that people, in as much as they want to come to Joburg to work, but we don't want to die here.
Yeah.
None of us want to die here. We're simply looking for opportunities to work and go back home.
100%. And we debate these in braais, and please, if you can just open it up a bit, the benefits of having Africa as one currency and one without borders and with different states led by one person. How will that benefit us in economics?
Number one, just to be very cut to the chase, you have 54 stock exchanges in Africa. Each country has its own stock exchange. And then minerals have disparities, and lots of stealing is happening from the multinational companies. So on the onset, to have one economic structure speaks of one stock exchange, where all our minerals are put in the stock exchange and they are sold at international value. So there's no back door. Actually, we'll make more money from this stock. It may become actually one of the most expensive stock in the whole world, because then you are selling platinum at the value of platinum. You are selling cobalt at the value of cobalt. Right now, there are aeroplanes in the midst of the jungles of Congo, where the Chinese are just shooting in,
100%.
load up and shoot out,
Shoot
and
out.
that money doesn't even appear on the GDP of Congo. That money. So there's more stealing. Look at the gold mafia story that is happening in Zimbabwe. Corrupt mines, one thing, but also a sanctioning system where you take a country and you wingle them out of the commercial space and you want them to die. And when the people begin to find new methods of survival outside of the system, then you come up with small little gimmicks like this, like gold mafia, what? But how long, 400 years later, have you been stealing in this country? And actually, I'm actually glad that the Al Jazeera program came out, because what they thought they will accomplish with it, it went the opposite. It went south. Because after the show, what we saw is actually banks, Standard Banks, Absas, Safrifins, Macmillans, and all these white boys who have been hiding in the background. We had that Dubai, there's dirty money in Dubai. We had there's dirty money in India. We had there's dirty money in China. And these people from their own countries who make dirty money, who don't want to bank it in their own countries. If it is banked, another story. They go to their own banks, take their own money, fly across the continent, private jets and etc. And they come to do corruption here. And when they've done the corruption, they want to say you are corrupt. But they stop and say, but you never saw a Zimbabwean running in the streets of Dubai with gold and etc. It's you who come here and don't want to do things in the proper way in which the government legislates them, but you want to work on your own parallel system. And at the end of the day, you have corruption, which is the venue, the corruptor, who is the one who has got the money, the corruptee, the one who is taking 2%, 3%. And for me, it is stupid for Africans to discuss gold mafia story with the 2%. The question is, what happens? What happens with the 98%? Where is the real money going? Here we are discussing about Hubert Angel, who are receiving 1.2%, 2% of the transaction.
Where's the chunk?
Who talks about the? So then for me, corruption is not the 2%. This is attitude and loose change. The real corruption are the banks, the transportation and security companies, insurance companies, who allow a man to walk out of the bank with briefcases full of 400 million. And don't ask the man, where is the money going?
Yeah.
What is it going to do? And here you are, lecturing about money laundering, but money is being laundered from your American banks, your British banks, your Dubai banks. So I don't buy some of these stories. It's one thing to hear these popular sentiments on media. It's another thing to fully understand.
Correct. And while you're there, what are the gatekeepers, which are our leaders in Africa? What role do they need to play to make sure that we are out of this cage?
You cannot come out of this cage in an easy way in which you're thinking. You have to look at a system that has been built over a period of 400 years. Entrenched, tight. Schools, prisons, hospitals, banks, government, tenders, legislative frameworks, body that controls architects, that controls doctors, that controls nurses, driving licenses and schools, of all these systems that are put into place. The most dangerous thing, then you take a gorilla, a soldier, an MK soldier, who has been doing toy in Angola for months and years, and now there is freedom. You take that man from the bush of Angola, and you put him in a financial institution.
Yeah.
You put him in a government institution. And you as common people, you look at this guy and say, he must do better. But what if I tell you something, honestly speaking, that maybe he does not know how this spider web works. He may have correct political slogan, Amandla, Amandla, all right, beautiful. After Amandla, then go to the stock exchange and understand how banking, insurance, housing, and etc. This whole system works, and the white man has planned it.
Yeah.
You may find that the African knew how to liberate politically, but does not have a full understanding of the economic place. So, in my 2 cents worth, you cannot put a revolutionary into the square box of a colonial parliament and government and ask that the revolution will proceed. In fact, the system will kill the revolution because the revolutionary becomes the new colonizer. So President Mandela walks and sits in a chair that P.W. Botha was sitting. And why is sitting in this chair? To administer the system. So the prisons continue. The dompas that you were banning during the liberation, they continue. The passports continue. The borders continue. Nothing changes until you change the system. Changing political leaders is like swapping hyenas with foxes.
Now, I'm glad you went there, because when you surf out, what falls out is things like xenophobia, tribalism, because now we're fighting amongst ourselves. Because when you look at South Africans now, we think Zimbabweans, for example, are stealing our jobs. We think that by taking the Zimbabweans back, economic freedom will come to our shores. And we've argued about it, and it doesn't seem like we've found a way out. But I want you to tell me your thoughts around xenophobia. And the reason I'm asking you this is South Africans, which I feel like Botswana, Lesotho, actually as Africa, we are brothers. We have killed our own in South Africa. In mass protests where we say we are protecting our borders. It happened in Diepsloot, Alexandra, a couple of times in Soweto. Do we have blood of our brothers in our hands? And if yes, what do we need to do to cleanse? You remember the story of Cain and Abel? The blood cries out.
Right.
And punishment is then inevitable if we don't do anything about it.
Okay. I'm a writer. I write stories. I write media programs and stuff like that. All I need is a pen and paper, and I write. So if you say I'm taking away your job, I wonder, what job am I taking? It's funny that a taxi driver can be killing a medical doctor and say you're taking away my job. And then you want to look and say, which kind of jobs are you talking about? So the whole concept of taking away of jobs is not all true. Because some of the jobs that you are talking about are highly specialized jobs that even if you can kick out the Zimbabwean out, you will have a gap right there. If right now we should take out all the Zimbabwean teachers, who are the science and maths teachers, privileged enough that we come from Zimbabwe, where our education system produced all this what you're seeing, and the country cannot absorb all of it. So some of it has ended up here. So you said the 180 teachers who are in right now in South Africa, running your science and maths departments, who are Zimbabweans, say we don't want you here. It's fine. You can pack and let them go. But how long will it take you to produce another 180 maths and science teachers so that metric can be written this year? And then you complain that your education level is going down. But no one is talking of the quality of teachers that you have who can make what you want. So this whole thing of taking away of jobs must come with a reflection. We understand you are young people as South Africa, as a country. You are young. You're 25 years old.
Got it.
We as a country, we are older. We are 40 years old, if not 45. And surely a 45-year-old man has got more experience.
Than a 25.
So the spillage which you are enjoying comes from that kind of experience. So maybe that's on the professional side. Yes, if we are talking about restaurant workers and etc., then there's abuse there, because it is the white guys who own these firms, who don't want to pay for insurance, who don't want to pay the real rate, who don't want to pay for UIF and other contingencies. So a Zimbabwean who does not have papers, even if he's given 2,000, 3,000 rand, he will agree. Whereas a South African will demand the minimum wage. So in that space, you want to be clear that the taking away of the jobs is nothing to the Zimbabweans, but the business owners. Because if the business owners will be held accountable, and it is equal across the board, then the concept of the Zimbabwean will fall into non-significance. So the Zimbabwean market is lucrative because it's abusable. Not because that they're taking away your jobs, but they are giving away their services at less because they don't have papers to qualify. On the xenophobia issue, on the upside, on killing each other and keeping having blood of our relatives in our hands, it's ignorance of the highest order. Because a Piri in Malawi, a Rafiki in Kenya and in Tanzania, Shokomkanya in Zimbabwe, a Khabo in Botswana, a Mtweneng in Lesotho, a Jambase in Xhosa, Fakudze in Skosana in KwaNdebele, Mtolo in Eswatini. It's all a monkey. So when you find a Mtweneng in South Africa taking a panga and chopping a ngube, you're actually killing your blood brother.
100%.
So is the Banda, the Sibanda, the Mzimandi, the Mgonyama. So is the Crocodile,
Correct.
the Ngwenya,
Yes.
the Gushungos, the Mukwenas, and etc. So I think our lack of understanding our Ubuntu family. If, by the way, what's funny with culture, if you could trace 3 generations, not even 4, 3 generations going backwards, you may actually find that when we were coming down here, we are all connected. We are not.
100%.
So at the end of the day, xenophobia for me, it comes as a result of Bantu misinformation, where you are told you are this, you are not that, where now you are South African. But being South African, what does it mean to be South African when 60% of Johannesburg is migrant labor? So all you guys, if I can trace 2 to 3 of your grandfathers, you may find your fathers from Zambia, from Mozambique, from Zimbabwe, from Botswana. I mean, so there's nothing special.
100%. And even when you listen to the language, similarities.
Lozi in Zambia, Sutu, north and south, and Tswana, etc. One language.
100%.
So which part is difficult? And if you look at a linguistic cooperation, you look at bloodline connections, and you look at our demographics, that it was just separated by a river. So the vendors that are in Zimbabwe, and the lembas that are in Zimbabwe, others are across the river. Before the white men came, we used to feed and go across the rivers
100%.
and marry and work around. So a white man comes and then puts a line. He says, no, before you can cross the river, you must go to Pretoria and get a dome pass, go to Harare, get a dome pass to go and visit your uncle across the river there. And the Tswanas.
Yeah.
I mean, look at the whole of Rustenburg. into Botswana.
Actually, Zeerust and Botswana, we came
It
up.
used to be part.
Yeah.
Mpumalanga.
There's still communities that cross without a border.
Mpumalanga from Witbank, right up into Malelane.
Yeah.
They're all Swazis. They still go to celebrate their Ngolas and etc. in Swaziland. But the king was pushed into the mountains. Look at Lesotho.
Even Lesotho.
From Free State, right up from Bloemfontein, Ntabanchu, Tababusihu, right to the backsides of things. It used to be Lesotho. So, and not that we are not aware of it, but I think these political borders, they come with some certain privileges. When you say, I am South African, I am Tswana, I am what? But you look around and say, how much of South African are you? How much of Tswana are you if you're from Mpumalanga and you say, I'm South African, yet you are a Fakudze from Swaziland. And your king and your chief is paying allegiance to the king who is in Swaziland, and you're saying you're South African. So you find this dichotomy between cultural cohesion and actually educational understanding, so that when you are killing your fellow Africans, you are as good as killing yourself. You get to Abuja in Nigeria, driving out right from the airport, there's a big rock that is looking at you next time you get there. Go and ask what is the name of that rock. Huge rock. It's called Zuma Rock.
Zuma Rock.
Zuma. Z-U-M-A. Zuma. And you come right up in KwaZulu-Natal, at the bottom part of Natal. You go and look for a person there by the name of Zuma.
Wow.
Then you look at the linguistics, the connection, and say, coincidence? You go to the southern parts of Angola, you find tribes of the Chitikulus, who are the Mutimkulus, who are the Bunganas.
Now, you see, you come in nicely. So I need you to match these ones. Spirituality, culture, and religion. Where does it fall in the African space?
The African space does not think like that. You are talking to me with a Hellenistic mindset, which divides things into it's this and this. African culture is total. Within culture, there is economy. Within culture, there is spirituality. Within culture, there is food. There is fashion. There is governance. So culture becomes a way in which a community expresses itself and responds to the environment.
Does that make it progressive and it changes according to time?
All cultures are progressive intrinsically, but the changing of times does not change values. Does not change values, because the values
doesn't change the tradition.
The values, traditions can change. We used to put on skins, now we're putting on clothes. We just put prints on them, etc. So you change. You could change material, but the values of what these things represent.
Please help me out with this. I thought culture is a way of living in a certain date and time that is progressive and it can change. I thought religion or culture, not culture, religion. Religion is obviously your belief, and it can be influenced by culture and tradition. Tradition, I thought, doesn't change. If in your tradition you say, when I bury, I want a certain color cow, it has to be done like that. Doesn't matter of location or time. Am I missing it completely?
Culture has to be understood squarely well, because the influences of the dominant culture which force it to change. So even what you're saying, don't change, ultimately you find that we used to marry like this, but now we're marrying like that.
Correct.
So even the tradition itself of marriage, I want to do a traditional Zulu wedding, I want to do a traditional white wedding, but all of them are traditions. But one is migrating towards the other. The only problem is that while we are migrating towards the whites, are the whites migrating towards us? Or slowly we are moving into oblivion, as we think that being progressive is becoming more like them. And therefore we say in Farmers of Thought, every time you try to be like me, you are depriving me an opportunity to experience you. So you would find that our words, when we talk about progress, it has never been progress towards ourselves. It is a migratory progress. When you are being called progressive, it means that you are less cultured, you are less traditional, then you're progressive. whoever came up with that kind of language, maybe we must find him and tell him that actually retrogressing could also be progress. Because the one who finds his roots, I think finds his basis rather than the one who finds his ambitions.
I'd like to run when you speak about culture and the music. So, which is, people don't know you're a very, I'll say you're a good musician. How many instruments do you play?
I don't know, I last played 15, I think.
15? I'm saying fluently.
I last played 15.
I've seen you play a saxophone.
Soprano, tenor, alto, I play all three of them.
Really?
I play trumpet, and I play harmonica, I play bandura, I play mbira, I play the kora,
Correct.
I play the nyatiti, and do drums, traditional drums. And
do you consider yourself a musician?
I'm scared of calling myself a musician. I rather call myself sangoma.
Why sangoma?
Because all musicians have a ngoma. And ngoma in Shona speaks of a drum. So you can't say you're a musician if you don't have a drum, if you don't have the music. So when the ngoma ni monga so ni sangoma, because ingoma yibungoma. And lo cula isangoma zongile. These are all medium spirits. They might not understand, but their business is actually to heal through song.
I have to agree with you. So then, music is definitely spiritual.
Music is a bridge between the physical and the spiritual world. It's vibration. Yeah, it is a passage.
Is that why then a lot of musicians, I hope none of these here, have got problems with addiction, alcohol?
You cannot say it better unless you know which space you are in. You might actually attract a spirit that will confuse you. You are doing a good thing, but you don't know why you're doing it. Then it contaminates you. This business is dangerous. If you don't know what you're doing, it will kill you. This will kill you.
Yeah.
Because the addiction of the spirit can become toxic if you don't know the reason why you're doing it.
Sure. Is that then why we are led to, and I'm asking pastors because you've got a rich 30 years of being a pastor, and you're still a bishop. Is that why there's a loggerheads between pastors and musicians?
The Bible itself says musicians must be paid. The King Solomon's temple, which had a few hundred musicians with trumpeters, they were all on the payroll of Solomon. And music is a ministry. It's no doubt that they are actually ministers in song. You become a minister in word. So whoever came up with the idea that the minister of word is bigger than the minister in song, and that person must be found also and be shorted, because it looks like they are the ones who brought the problem that we have. These two ministries are supposed to work hand in glove, because while you minister with the written word, the other one is ministering in song, and the combination of these two creates the environment of worship. So the musician must be paid, the preacher must be paid, and the foreigner who is in your house must be paid also. So for me, being a foreigner in South Africa, I need to get a salary from the church, because the Bible says while you were also in a strange land, you were looked after. So you need to look after strangers, and the last most important group are the widows and the orphans. So tithe and offerings is not only for the pastor's pocket to run away and do a splash life. He actually should take it and cut it into 4 pieces. So the 10 rand must be cut into 4 pieces. And one piece goes for the orphans, the other piece goes for the strangers, the other piece goes for the musician, the last piece goes for him.
Sure. And what do you say to people? I don't want to engage you on that because Sepel is cut. When people say worship is not music or music is not worship.
Worship is an end in itself. It's not a means to an end. Now that's some serious English. You need to process that.
Please.
Worship is an end in itself. It's not a means to an end. Because when you worship, you are not worshiping in absence. You're worshiping in the presence of. So your worship will not reach heaven when you are at home. But when you are worshiping, you are doing it in the presence of the one whom you wanted to hear. Therefore, worship, we're not worshiping God who is in heaven in absentia. When we worship Him who is present amongst us. So the disciples went in the upper room and they started to sing and worship and break bread together. And the presence of the Lord was amongst them. Tongues began to fall upon them. And you can read through the entire text. So the mindset of the modern number 2000, to think that we go to church and we worship and we leave God either at church or in the evening, then our worship service will be taken and the angels will go and report in heaven that, hey, they were at church today. It's all wrong. And if we knew whom we are worshiping, the attitudes of those that are present would change. Maybe cell phones would stop working. Maybe chewing chappies would stop. Maybe playing and would stop. Because we know that the subject of worship is present. And then we become the objects through which we are doing this. But once the object and subject are detached, then we have the churches the way we have them today, where they've become circuses and become humor stations and comic stations. People come to church to find a high joker, a high comedian who come there and swears and curses and shouts and people must feel good. So church has become a drug where people are coming for a fix. Okay, I think Christians are addicted to this Christianity, so that they come here and get a fix, and then they go back home every week. They must get hey, you must get off drugs.
As you were going there, you reminded me. Remember your sermon, I am not the man. That sermon, I still watch it even today. Is that then now irrelevant now, according to you?
Relevance is not measured by me.
Yeah.
Relevance is measured by you. It's not. If I understand myself as a vessel of grace, then I become the one who comes to deliver what I've been given. And when it finds you where it finds you, then it has done its job. So it's you who can judge whether it is relevant or it is not relevant. So it's not up to me. I went to grade 1, I went to grade 5. I did Form 5, I did college, I did university. And the fact that now I am in university does not mean that what I learned in primary school is now no longer available to me.
It propelled you to there.
Knowledge is progressive, and I am what I am, and grade 2 is here.
Yeah.
Grade 5 is still here. Grade 7 is still here. So the question of relevance is people who are refusing the growth of a person.
Hey.
As I'm learning and as I'm growing and I'm moving into new spaces, and as I'm changing my shoes from size 4 to size 5, I'm now on size 11, and etc. And so I'm allowed to change my shoes. My feet are allowed to grow, but not my brains. What I was taught in kindergarten must still be holding my brains, even when I'm 55 years old.
So you said in your infancy you believed everything.
Adulthood, we question everything.
And if you find you on a good day, question the question. I need to ask you this. And you had Mulawuds who wrote the book, Could Jesus Be Black? But I found that thing very, very interesting. The first question I want to ask, does it matter if he was black or not?
No, I ask you. Should you walk up to a shop and you want to buy Coke and it is poured in a Fanta bottle, would you buy it?
Okay.
You want some Latu techies, and then I give you, I hope the Chinese want to hear me, I give you Bate, you want a Samsung phone and I give you something. Would you buy it? Let's start there. Would you buy it?
Chances I wouldn't.
Why?
It's not what it says in the bottle.
It's fake.
It's fake.
It's fake.
So now, this is the part I want to understand. Are you saying Jesus, or is it called Yahoshua, does not exist, or you saying this person they naming Jesus is not? He was not white. He was actually black. His father he's also black, because they say his skin is like jasper and Kalinian stone, his hair is like wool. So are you saying that Jesus doesn't exist, but I believe in Yahushua, for example?
All right. Very, very good question. That is it's an academic question you're asking me. Because it's one thing to create a name 500 years ago, not 800 years ago, etymologically speaking. That's the Council of Nicaea coins up this Jesus concept. And then you take me to a theology school where you teach us in theology. You don't translate
A name, 100%.
You come here and then you deliberately translate a name to be Jesus. Closer to the Romans, we have Zeus. Then Jesus becomes the son of Zeus. And then you draw him up. You portray a certain imagery which you know will be convenient for you on your colonial journey. You come here and you sell us a pig in a bag. You say, just close your eyes and imagine that it is a sheep. And then I wake up and said, no, but this is a pig. This is a pig. Where is the sheep that I ordered? Where is the lamb that I ordered? Then people say, you're an unbeliever. You don't believe. Just close your eyes. The packaging does not matter. We prayed. So it reminds me of a good story in my humorous life. A Chinaman baptizes another man, and he says to him, every good Catholic does not eat pork on a Friday, because Jesus was crucified on Friday. Oh, yes, do you understand? Sure, I understand. First Friday, the Catholic priest comes to check his new member. And lo and behold, when he's approaching, he can smell the pork chops in the background. Comes there storming, but I told you, Chinaman, you don't eat pork on Friday. Chinaman says, oh, don't be so angry, Father. Don't be so angry. Father, take hand, put in a little bit of water, sprinkle on Chinaman, and say, Chinaman, you know more Chinaman. You're Catholic. Chinaman puts hand and say, pork chops. They are now fish. So you look into, when you want to do transformation of people, and I think this is honestly, blatantly so, that the arrogance of the white people around the text is what is offensive to me. And those that tolerate it, they get me upset altogether. The Black Book would say, don't make any graven images. But we hang them on our walls and on our necks and etc. And no one complains. Even if we could do that, but do it correctly, maybe to be a different story altogether. So we're dealing with a whole bunch of shenanigan stuff. Now we have rosaries. Now apparently on Easter, we must have bunnies.
Easter eggs.
We must have eggs. And then you go back in research and find this was a sex orgy where people would sleep with each other like rabbits and make children in Easter and then kill those babies in December. And it's part of the human sacrifice that were happening. And you take all that thing and you bring to Christianity and say, we are celebrating Easter. This Easter. And say, come on guys, can you stick to Passover? Let's stick to what we know. Because Passover speaks of liberation. People in slavery moving over to conquer stuff. But this Easter thing you're celebrating, where do you find bunnies in the Bible? Where do you find these hot cross banners in the Bible? And Christianity is so sensitive. You can't ask them anything. Because once you ask, you're a non-believer, you're a Satanist, you are evil. But I'm not coming to you only as Maponga J. I come to you as Maponga J, an African. I come to you Maponga J as a bishop. I also come to you as Maponga J, a scholar of the very text that you consider as yours. So if you want me to remove my gloves, if you say preach to me as a pastor, I'll give you what you need to hear from a bishop. But if you say to me as a scholar and you ask me questions, such as these questions of Jesus, then I'm actually thinking in my head, do I approach you as a As a theologian, do I give you a pastoral answer or do I give you an African answer? And in my head, I'm actually going, so when I'm weaving my head like this, I'm wondering, where do I place you? That a black boy from North Africa could disappear into Europe. When he comes back, he's got blue eyes and he's got blonde hair. And you look at the person who drew the picture, the Da Vinci's and etc. And you hear the stories around who he was drawing, his gay friend. So the symbolism right now of Christianity is a gay man who looks like Jesus.
When you say gay, you mean happy?
Not happy, Mchana. Don't be tricky. You know what I'm saying? He was a homosexual.
Okay.
And so the symbol right now, which the church and media has adopted. No, and by the way, don't be angry. Just do your research. Just go and Google.
Find out what's
who
happening.
is this person that is drawn, that we now hang in, and when we see him, you almost feel like you can't even touch him, you can't bend him, because he looks like your savior. See, that's a lot of brainwashing that can happen to you. And when you read all the revolution that happened in Israel, from the book of Samuel, right up in the book of Malachi, part of the revolution is that a new king would come in and burn the altars of Baal and Ashtoreth and destroy all the idols and remove them from the house, then clean up the house. Then the revolution would begin. I wonder if one of those judges would walk up to our spaces today and call for a revolution. How much of what we are holding on as truth will make its way to the fireplace? Because these are the things that are an abomination before the Lord. And yet we have come to worship them. Some of us even worship in front of this Mother Mary and what and what. Some of us carry crosses. The other guy in Kenya the other day says he's Jesus. And he said they want to crucify him over Easter.
He ran away?
No, went to the police. He said, no, we don't have a problem with your claim. We just want to crucify you. And we want to see if you are going to resurrect on Sunday.
I'm conscious of time. The last question I need to ask you. I've had arguments, I think it was with Bonto or somebody else, and I said, guys, I don't remember that the Maponga saying he is no longer Christian. I remember saying he does not believe in the portrayed Christ that people are talking about. Am I missing it? Because I don't remember you saying you don't believe in God. You just say, were you saying what has been packaged and sold to us, you don't buy?
True that. I believe in God. I believe in the presence of the supernatural. I believe in messages and messengers, the prophets, that come at various times to give us information and knowledge and systems. But what has been presented to us as Christianity, I don't believe in it at all. But what has been presented to us,
100%.
because what has been presented to us is the Zacchaeus gospel, which is never taught. Is there any man out there that I've taken something from? If he is there, come forward. I'll pay you 4 times of what I've taken away from. Will the colonial system ever stand up and look at the black people and say, we are Christians. If we have taken anything away from you, we will refund you. So a religion that does not believe in itself cannot claim to be Christian. So are you catching?
I'm catching.
You can't say this is Christianity when it can't practice
our African culture and customs, and I agree with you. And there was a musician, Lucas Maluma, this one. He came out there and he said, why can't we do in an African way? Play the drum.
Jesus will run through the window. Jesus only comes when he hears organs and strings. Then Jesus comes into space.
So my last question on this one is, if Jesus came out and he was black, would white people be Christians?
It is a very interesting question. And because I'm not white, I'll find it difficult to answer that question. But having understood the white people, I think many of them are going to backslide in this generation when they finally wake up to find out what is it they've believed all along. A woman in Europe bought all the albums of Louis Armstrong, all of them, until Louis Armstrong went to Europe and she discovered that he was black. She went home and burnt all the albums. She thought it was a white boy playing music. So it's a delusion. And by the way, you believe in what you don't know. When you know it, you don't need to believe in it. So I don't need to believe in Jesus. I believe in what I know. Culture teaches us facts. Christianity teaches us faith.
Wow. He's got a question for you.
Yes, Bishop Maponga. So, do you believe there is heaven after death? What happens?
I believe when you die, stand with me in the river and take yourself a glass of water from the river. That's your life. At death, we pour you back in the river. You join the rest of the life is a continuous cycle of the spiritual space. Heaven as a name, yes. Heaven as a theory, maybe. Heaven as your mind, maybe. Heaven as things of imagination above you, and earth as soil, between heaven and earth, between thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. And so the concept of heaven must not only be looked at from the cosmological space, but it must also be understood in a philosophical way, that heaven, and if you understand what is above as what is below, you'll understand that the cosmos that is out there is duplicated in the cosmos right here. So where is your heaven? Your heaven then becomes your place of darkness. Let's close our eyes in prayer. There you are in the space of nothingness. And from there you create things that are visible in the physical space. So from a local space, heaven is here. Earth is here. It's my flesh that is here. But in a scientific way, heaven is there, earth is here. But when it comes to more critical thinking, and I ask you, point where heaven is, in a scientific way, you may never know that it is that way. Because if you say we're a globe, in the globe theories, as opposed to the flat world theory, if you are in a globe, from where can you point heaven to be? It could be there, it could be. So these are philosophical questions. But for what it is worth, it is good to know that the spiritual world, which you call heaven, determines what happens in the physical world, which you call earth. So that which is above, it is the creative space which manifests in that which is visible. So we are living between heaven and earth. So as you stand, your feet are on the ground and your head is in the heavens. So you constantly download spiritual data and manifest it in the physical space. That's what I would come to understand in my old age, is what heaven represents and what earth represents. And I live in both every day.
Every day.
And every night I go to heaven.
Yeah.
And in the morning I come back to earth.
And I know you need to go, but I need to ask you a last question. And Bonzo wants to ask something. Okay, Bonzo, can you ask quickly?
No. So I just want to know, when you look at the kids today, or the generation of now, and the African spirituality and having to know their roots and all of that, do you think that can still be preserved? And the reason why I'm asking that is, black kids go to white schools and all of that, and some kids can't even speak their home language. So do you think we will get to a point where we can preserve that African culture with the current kids that we have now?
You're asking me to make a projection. Dude, are we going to get there? And the question is, where is the there? You know, because education has become an escape from yourself to the other. And we don't need to look very far. Look where you're going, which is the European culture. And you would find that they are solid. Their culture, their kings, their traditions are intact. So while you are running away from your own, where you're going, they are solid. They're established. The queen still sits on the throne. He left it for his son, and the son wants to retire now. He's living for his son. So when is the democracy in Britain? When actually it's being run by a monarch. But you run around the world and destroy other people's monarchs so that you remain as the only queen around the world. So you need to understand sometimes, I think lack of learning, that we would think that should we preserve it? Should we preserve African culture? then the opposite question, should we kill European culture? Maybe that's the balance. So that we don't be seen to be, should we preserve African culture as if the other one is better than the other? And if you should go back into the European culture in its gore state and understand the cults and the occultics, so the Freemasons and the Illuminatis and the human sacrifice and other things that happen in that space, in their own cultural space. Even the king being inaugurated by a goat. Imbuzi. Phethe lapha inaugurating nina African umuntu ngabona ngalo umuntu ephethe imbuzi ngabo uyathakala. So you guys you're confused. You're confused. I can't help you. I can't help you because what you're throwing away what you know and going into what you don't know.
I need to leave it on a lighter note, but it's a very important note. I've heard what you once say, after 40, it's about health. What are men 40 and above, majority of us, are supposed to do to preserve, most importantly, their manhood? What are we supposed to do, and what recommendation can you do? Because the African continent, we knew how to look after our bodies.
Okay.
There's a plant for this, there's a plant for that. I need you to be as raw and honest on this one.
I think after 40, your health is determined by your pencil. And depending, if it goes up, then you are healthy. If it goes half past, then you are not healthy.
Yeah.
Every morning, if you find in a house a toilet that is very clean, you must know that the man of that house is physically weak and sick.
Please say it again.
Every man must wake up in the morning struggling with the fire brigade trying to. But on a lighter note, learn from your culture, Zulu, Tswana, and there are things that our grandfathers used to do, cleaning up the colon. And you don't do this every day, once every quarter, every change of season. When you are changing from winter to summer, the change of food needs also to have a cleansing of the colon. And once the colon is clean, the first one, most likely the pencil will function properly. And back with that, from Maponga J and Farmers of Thought, we recommend at least that a man must reduce alcohol, man must reduce sweet drinks, that includes Coke and etc. Kuzana maheu majens. That is snacks nje, this njengabomanzi nje, this right, and then our fresh juice. But in case you want to drink something that is warm, I would recommend some cinnamon,
ginger,
2 teaspoons of cinnamon, and fresh ginger, and 2 squeezes of lemon inside. Make that your favorite drink.
And
And your wife will behave for about 3 days, then you drink again. But you can make it a daily juice, and you won't regret it.
I thank you very much for the sacrifice. You've honored a boy from Hammanskraal. They'll give you something to drink. But you can't just go. We want to give you something very special from the Gospel Reality Podcast. But Maponga, I said tint anything. Naku is here, and he said it first. So this is you see, when you do your journey when you do your journey to
across the oceans,
this keeps things cold.
Okay.
Keeps things hot.
Both ways.
Both ways.
Auswak.
But that's not all.
Auswak.
For your wife.
Thank you.
She cancelled your flight because of this. So please tell her this is from Letlotolaka.
Okay.
Maponga's wife. It's got my bath foams.
Okay.
My bath bombs.
All right.
Kuna shower gel la igeza nezona.
Oh, Jesus.
So this is for your wife. Please tell her that we send our regards.
I appreciate you, and we hope to be meeting up again.
Remember, you said this is part 1.
And we are excited also, even now after we are closing, to want to encourage young people to come up with new brands. We must eat black, we must think black, we must dress black, we must wash black, we must carry black, As it were, let's put more products out there. I like what DJ Sbu are doing.
Yes,
I like what Ubatu are doing.
Beautiful.
I like what Lieto, anything Vukadaki, anything that is black. And I think maybe one time you must actually do a show here of just celebrating black brands.
100%.
And sharing ideas, sharing contacts, and start buying from each other. Because until we convert our culture into our currency, we will sponsor our enemies.
Yeah.
Wow. Dr. Maponga,
Thank you.
thank you very much. Our ladies and gentlemen, you heard it first on the Gospel Reality Podcast. We're here with Ntate Bishop Maponga. Till we see each other again, our courts will be